Hello, this is a presentation for Frontier Nursing University PC728 Leadership and Organizational Dynamics. This is a public service announcement being presented by myself, Katrina George, and my twin sister, Kathia Skinner. I'll begin by telling you a little bit about myself. I'm a certified nurse midwife in IBCLC in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm currently working in a boutique birthing center with hospital privileges at a large and very busy labor and delivery unit. Hello, my name is Kathia Skinner, and I am a family nurse practitioner at Mount Sinai Hospital in the great city of New York, caring for the extremely ill patients of the myelodysplastic syndrome clinic. Our subject today is on how power and influence is used as a leadership style. Every politician, business, and clinic is affected by power and influence. We are going to show you today the organizational and clinical application of power and influence in your everyday life. We'll provide an analysis and discussion of the subject, including its application to organizational and clinical leadership. In order to improve understanding, we'll also provide numerous examples, including references to famous leaders that we all recognize. Let's begin. Let's now provide some more background information about power and influence, starting with its definition. Power and influence is one integrated concept, for power is not useful unless it's enacted through behavior. In general, it means that one individual or collective entity has the means to influence the state or disposition of another. When you think of someone who is powerful, what comes to mind? Is it someone with a lot of money or resources and seemingly holding the world in the palm of their hands? Power has often been perceived as an attribute exclusive to the rich, the famous, the corrupt, or the brute. While this may be true, we all encounter numerous daily acts of power and influence in micro and macro levels. Those of us who seek to implement change but do not have tangible power are dependent on influence tactics to yield the necessary change that we desire. Power does not have to be minimized to oppression and exclusion. Empowerment is a substitute for sheer power, or it can be at least, as it influences the participation, the collaboration, and the behavior of others. There are two main sources of power. The first is positional power, which is also known as authority, and the second is information and expertise. Position power is when a certain held position confers a higher level of legitimate authority. An example of this would be a judge who will preside over a case, or from a clinical standpoint, an attending physician who presides over the care of a patient. In a family, a parent may function as the authority and the child the partisan. Authority is important for anyone in a formal position of power because they are dependent upon social control. If a child does not respect or fear their parents, or perhaps the child grows larger than the parent, they may rebel against this authority, and the power shift may occur. Under the umbrella of positional power is personal power. An individual personal power is someone who is usually appeasing to the eyes, charismatic, wise, and articulate. An example would be the late John F. Kennedy or President Barack Obama. Along with the gift of personal power comes 6 techniques used to influence others. The first is reciprocation. This is the notion that if I do something for you, you're likely going to feel as though you should do it for me as well. Now, this could range from a mutual form of I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine, to a form of coercion and bribery. The second is commitment and consistency. This is essentially getting someone interested just long enough to get them to see some positive attributes of what they might be trying to convey, then leveraging your desire to be consistent and live up to your commitments. An example of this would be that you're browsing on an app such as Zillow or Trulia to find a home, and the seller posts pictures of the home that only show off the positive attributes, just enough to get you to come in for a tour. Once you come in, even if things are slightly different than it seemed, you're more likely to commit to purchasing the home. The third is social proof. Social proof is when a person is swayed to do something if they're offered evidence that everyone is doing it. We adults are also subjected to peer pressure. The fourth item is liking. As the term implies, the more you like or favor someone, the higher the probability that you'll do what the individual asks. An employee may choose to flatter or share commonalities with his or her colleagues in order to make it hard for them to turn down their request. A clinical example would be when an OR surgeon makes an error. The rest of the team does not report it because they like the surgeon and do not want him or her to face repercussions. The fifth is authority, which we previously discussed, but as a recap, an example of authority is when the police asks a civilian to provide him or her with their proof of identification, and it is likely that the person will produce that ID even if the law protects them from having to do so. The last is scarcity. Scarcity is the concept that we place a higher value on something that is scarce or about to become unavailable. An example of this is when a seller tells a customer that their item is one of a kind and will sell out soon to entice the customer to make a purchase. Now that we've talked about personal power, let's discuss framing, which is the last item under the umbrella of positional power. Framing is when an individual, corporation, or entity has control over the definition of meanings and symbols. It is often referred to as ideological power. Elites and opinion leaders can essentially shape the meaning and articulate myths that express identity, beliefs, and values. This is a powerful form of power. It can be used to pass down folklore and strengthen cultural identity, or used for manipulation and deceit. A fish, for example, has different meanings for astrology as it does Christianity. There is power and influence in being able to assign meaning to symbols. Another example of framing is when an organization such as Gallatin Institute, previously known as Eugenics Society, utilized framing to spread fallacies of eugenics that led to sterilization, euthanasia, and unspeakable atrocities in their conquest to achieve racial purity. Eugenics played a significant role in laying the foundation for Nazi Germany. Okay, now that we've covered position power, let's discuss the last form of power, which is information expertise. Information and expertise is when power flows to those with the know-how to solve important problems. Just like positional power, there are a few items that fall under this umbrella term. The first is alliances and networks. This is the concept that in order to get things done in an organization, one must work through a complex network of individuals and groups. In fact, this form of power requires the cooperation, relationships, and buy-in that occurs as a manager has been able to network and develop resources. This improves efficiency and productivity within the workplace. The second is coercive power, which is the ability to constrain, block, interfere, or punish. An example of this would be a strike in order to obtain higher wages or better working conditions. The last element is control of rewards. This is the ability to deliver jobs, money, political support, or other rewards that bring power. An example of this would be lobbyists providing funding to the political campaigns that can in turn influence their position on legislation that concerns their constituents. Now, in conclusion, I hope that you could see how power and influence can be inspirational, moving, secretive, and also corrupt and deadly, with the ability to change the course of history. Leaders like Nelson Mandela, JFK, Barack Obama, Dr. Martin Luther King have moved the world with their charismatic charm, likability, and persuasion. Then you have individuals like Adolf Hitler, Jim Jones, and David Duke, who also use the power of persuasion coupled with fear to influence a mass number of people to kill. We hope that you utilize the information we provided to positively lead your communities, jobs, and most importantly, your homes. As you obtain power, remember that power without humility is the greatest poison on this earth. These are references. And so we thank you for listening to our public service announcement. Please feel free to leave comments and questions below. We look forward to communicating with you. Thank you.